has landed herself a new, very high-profile position, and I've been wondering when this was going to happen. I knew at some point, somewhere, with some miscellaneous media outlet, Caitlin Clark would get a gig, and now we know where that gig's going to be, when that gig's going to be, and who that gig's going to
be. Caitlin Clark just landed a job that nobody saw coming. Not with ESPN, not music with Turner, with NBC Sports on their brand new flagship basketball show. And the timing of this announcement tells you everything you need to know about where the power really sits in women's basketball right now.
You know, I don't know how much. There's no CBA right now. And this, of course, would run through, let's see, what, at least May, in theory. I don't know. We don't have any dates that stretch that far yet. I still think they're going to get to see
February 1st, 2025. That's when Caitlin Clark makes her debut as a TV analyst, sitting alongside Hall of Famers Carmelo Anthony, Vince, Music, Carter, and Tracy McGrady for the Lakers versus Knicks game at Madison Square Garden. Not a WNBA game, an NBA game on Sunday Night Basketball. NBC's answer to TNT's Inside the NBA. Here's what makes this significant. NBC didn't just hire her to talk about women's basketball. They're putting her on the main stage, analyzing the men's game before the WNBA season even starts. That's a statement about her value as a basketball mind, not just as a WNBA star.
If there is a new CBA agreed upon before then, again, I've told you guys, I've got the over-under on February 15th. I just have a feeling. That's just my gut feeling that when push comes to shove, again, I believe a lot of players on the back end of the players that would be on the back end of rosters are going to see all that new money and be like, you know what, we're crossing the line. We're crossing the line. We want to sign the deal.
The CBA situation is hanging over everything right now. There's no collective bargaining agreement between the WNBA and its players. The 2026 season is supposed to start in May, but if negotiations fall apart, we might not have a season at all. Players are pushing for better revenue sharing, higher salaries, improved travel conditions. Owners are pushing back on the financials. And Caitlin Clark just secured a high-profile media gig that runs right through when those negotiations need to be finalized. She's scheduled for another appearance on March 9th for Thunder vs. Knicks. That's cutting it close to the WNBA's typical season start.
Still involving basketball. It was announced on Tuesday that Caitlin Clark will join NBC Sports to serve as a special contributor for its new Basketball Night in America program. Caitlin Clark will make her debut as a TV analyst on February 1st, preceding the Lakers versus Knicks game at Madison Square Garden, per a release from NBC. Wow. So this would be akin to, they have Sunday Night Football, and it starts with a pregame show called Football Night in America. I didn't know they were creating Basketball Night in America, but here we are.
Now, ESPN was the obvious choice here. They've been riding the Caitlin Clark wave harder than anyone. They built entire programming blocks around her college games at Iowa. They promoted her rookie season like it was the second coming. Elle Duncan, Monica McNutt, the whole ESPN crew has been covering her nonstop, but NBC made the move. And that's because NBC just secured a massive NBA rights deal starting with the 2025-26 season. They're building their basketball coverage from scratch, and they need star power. Michael Jordan signed on in a limited role, which created buzz, but no real substance. Jordan's not doing weekly analysis. He's barely doing anything. Caitlin Clark, though, she's doing real work. Music, pre-game commentary, studio analysis. Multiple appearances already scheduled. NBC is positioning her as a legitimate basketball analyst, not just a celebrity guest appearance.
Despite his limited role, simply having Jordan as part of the coverage created buzz. NBC is surely hoping Caitlin Clark's involvement will do the same. Of course, Caitlin Clark is expected to offer unique insights in assuming the analyst role for the first time, and her basketball IQ cannot be questioned. So the transition will be a seamless one for the Indiana Fever's star point guard. NBC will also have WNBA coverage for the upcoming 2026 season, so Caitlin Clark will surely appear in more than just the games she's scheduled to provide commentary for. And ultimately, the real anticipation is around how she will look when she comes back to the floor at home.
Let's talk about the money for a second, because nobody's reporting exact figures, but we can make educated guesses. Top NBA analysts make 7 figures annually. Caitlin Clark's WNBA salary last season was around $200,000. Her Nike deal is reportedly worth $28 million over 8 years. That's $3.5 million per year from Nike alone. That NBC isn't paying her Nike money, but they're not paying her WNBA money either. For 2 appearances during the off-season, with a possibility of more, she's probably looking at low 6 figures minimum. That's significant supplemental income while she's not playing. And here's the thing. This sets a precedent. If Caitlin Clark can land a major network analyst role during the WNBA off-season, other top players will want the same opportunity. Aja Wilson has the resume. Breanna Stewart has the basketball IQ. Sabrina Ionescu has the media presence. NBC just opened a door that's going to be hard to close.
So that's going to be really interesting. Quote, "I'm really excited to be part of Basketball Night in America crew this season," said Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is one of the most captivating players and dynamic scorers in basketball, said Sam Flood, executive producer of NBC Sports. "We're excited to have Caitlin join Hall of Famers Melo, Vince, Tracy, and Reggie in New York for the launch of Sunday Night Basketball." So that's very interesting. By the way, you can watch these online at Peacock, on the Peacock app, which is NBC's official app.
The press release from NBC Sports is interesting if you read between the lines. Sam Flood, the executive producer, calls Caitlin one of the most captivating players and dynamic scorers in basketball. Not women's basketball, just basketball. That's intentional language. They're putting her on a panel with Maria Taylor, who hosts Football Night in America, NBC's Sunday Night Football pregame show. That's their premium sports property. Football Night in America is appointment television for NFL fans. Now, they're launching Basketball Night in America with the same format, same prestige, same expectations. And Caitlin Clark is part of the inaugural crew. That's not a small thing that NBC is betting that her presence will drive viewership for NBA games the same way her presence drove viewership for WNBA games. Indiana Fever games averaged over 1.2 million viewers when she played last season. That's higher than most NBA regular season games on cable.so. What does this mean for the WNBA moving forward? First, it proves that Caitlin Clark's value transcends the league she plays in. She's not just a WNBA draw. She's a basketball draw. Networks are willing to pay her to talk about the NBA because they believe her audience will follow her there. That's crossover appeal that no other WNBA player has demonstrated at this level. Second, it creates an interesting dynamic with the CBA negotiations. Caitlin Clark now has significant income. Music streams outside of basketball. Nike deal, NBC analyst role, endorsements with Gatorade, State Farm, Wilson's Sporting Goods. She's not financially dependent on the WNBA the way most players are. That gives her leverage, but it also means she has less incentive to hold out if negotiations drag on. The betting line right now is that the CBA gets done by mid-February. February 15th is the over-under date that most insiders are circling. Players want more money, and there's more money available now than ever before. The league's media rights deals are increasing. Expansion fees from new teams are coming in. Golden State and Toronto just paid $50 million each to join the league. That money has to go somewhere. But here's the tension. Veteran players and stars want significant salary increases. Role players and end-of-bench players just want job security. When push comes to shove, the players who are barely hanging on to roster spots are going to see that new money and vote to accept whatever deal is on the table. Music, they can't afford to miss a season. Caitlin Clark can't. Third, this NBC deal changes how we should think about WNBA player compensation. The league itself might not be able to pay players what they're worth, but the ecosystem around the league, media companies, shoe companies, beverage companies, they're all willing to pay top players significant money because those players drive engagement. The WNBA salary cap might be limited, but the earning potential for stars is not. That's actually good for the league long term. It means top players don't have to go overseas during the off-season to make real money. They can stay in the United States, work with American media companies, and keep themselves in front of American audiences year-round. That builds the sport domestically, music, instead of fragmenting attention across international leagues. Fourth, watch what happens with ESPN now. They've been the dominant WNBA media partner for years. They have the most coverage, the most personalities dedicated to the league, the most investment in the product. But NBC just poached the league's biggest star for their basketball programming. That's a shot across the bow. ESPN is going to respond. They're going to try to lock up other players for analyst roles. They're going to increase their WNBA coverage even more. They're going to make sure that when people think about women's basketball, they think about ESPN. This is a media rights war playing out in real time, and the players are the ones who benefit. Fifth, Caitlin Clark's basketball IQ is about to be tested in a very public way. Analyzing NBA games is different from playing WNBA games. The pace is different. The athleticism is different. The strategic nuances are different. She's going to be sitting next to Carmelo Anthony, music, who scored 28,000 points in his career. Vince Carter, who played 22 seasons. Tracy McGrady, who is a two-time scoring champion. If she holds her own in that room, it elevates her credibility as a basketball mind. If she struggles, or if she's just there for star power without substantive analysis, it could backfire. NBC is betting that she can deliver real insights, not just platitudes. We'll find out on February 6th. This is going to make her relationship with WNBA media even more complicated. She's already had tense moments with certain reporters. The viral clip of her reaction to Scott Agnes asking about her injury status showed real frustration. Now she's going to be on the other side of that dynamic, asking questions and analyzing players herself. That's going to give her a different perspective on how media coverage works. Seventh, the timing with USA Basketball is worth noting. She participated in training camp in December. Music. She's committed to playing in World Cup qualifiers in March and the World Cup in September. That's a lot of basketball outside of the WNBA season. Add in the NBC analyst role, and she's not really getting an off-season. She's staying engaged with basketball year-round, music, which keeps her in the public eye, but also increases the risk of burnout. Eighth, this sets up an interesting scenario if the CBA negotiations actually do fall apart. If there's no WNBA season in 2026, Caitlin Clark still has USA Basketball and NBC to keep her relevant. She doesn't disappear from the basketball conversation. That's leverage. Other players don't have that safety net. If the season gets canceled, they're just waiting and hoping a deal gets done. She's still working, still earning, music, still building her brand. Ninth, NBC's investment in women's basketball is about to increase significantly. They're launching their NBA coverage with Caitlin Clark as part of the team. They also have WNBA rights starting. They're going to want to maximize that investment, which means promoting the league aggressively, featuring top players prominently, and building storylines that drive viewership. Caitlin Clark is the centerpiece of that strategy. So, here's the bottom line. This NBC deal is bigger than just a couple of analyst appearances. It's a signal that Caitlin Clark has transcended the WNBA and become a mainstream basketball figure. It's proof that networks believe she can drive viewership for men's games, not just women's games. It's leverage in CBA negotiations, whether she uses it or not. And it's a template for how other top WNBA players can build their brands and income during the offseason. The question now is whether she can deliver as an analyst. February 1st, Lakers versus Knicks at Madison Square Garden. We'll see if she's just there for star power or if she actually has something to say. Because if she's good at this, it opens up a whole new career path after her playing days are over. And if NBC is smart, they're already thinking about that long-term investment. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is this good for the WNBA, or does it distract from the league? And do you think she'll actually be a good analyst, or is NBC just chasing ratings? Hit that subscribe button because we're going to be covering her NBC debut when it happens.